about today women who feel like a real loving relationship in marriage means that the man is not going to make a prenup, is not going to protect his assets. And what inspired this was I saw a post, I'm just IG surfing, and I see a post about Justin Bieber getting married to his girlfriend, some woman named Hailey Baldwin. She's a supermodel, comes from a good family, or a rich family. I don't know about a good one, but well-to-do family. So she has her own money, and they were just the post was just saying that Justin Bieber's making her sign a prenup because he's worth $250 million. He's worth $250 million, and I thought that made sense. I mean, you see so many couples get married, stay for 2 years, 3 years, even 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, then get divorced. And more times than not, unless the woman, like one of the rare cases I saw the contrary was with Mary J. Blige and her husband. But in more cases than not, I see the woman make a huge financial gain as a result of having a child with a wealthy partner, a wealthy man. And so I checked the comments just to see what the mindset of the woman reading this post were. And so many women, particularly women of color, not just saying just black women, but Hispanic women, black women, mixed women, so many women were saying that he doesn't love her because he's making her sign a prenuptial agreement. Because if you don't think you're going to get divorced, then there's no need to worry about a prenup. And what I find alarming about that is because two things. So why do women feel so comfortable in the same situation? Like, as a woman, why do you feel so comfortable that you don't need a prenup to protect your assets? And the reason, in my opinion, and even some professional divorce lawyers and professional psychologists who have statistics and research to back it up, Helen Smith, divorce lawyers like Doug, what's his name? Doug Kapanis, who's professionally a divorce lawyer, talking from a professional perspective here. These people who've seen and have real data have said that women gain 90% of the time in these situations. And so my thing is, women are saying, oh, if there's a prenup, it's not love. But the reason these women feel so comfortable getting in a marriage without a prenup is because they know in the worst case scenario, they usually don't stand anything to lose. In fact, they actually stand a lot to gain. Only in 10% of child custody cases does the father get custody. Usually, and this is not me speaking from like a place of opinion, go look up real world divorce. There's actually a website that has the actual book online in like web version, so you could just go on realworlddivorce.com, and they have a breakdown of every state, and they update the book every year, and you can actually get it on Kindle, or you could just buy it on Amazon if you like to. But you can just go on the website, and they have a breakdown of every state, and it takes excerpts from professional lawyers practicing divorce law. So this is not my opinion speaking. You can look at me like I'm bigoted because I'm a man, but I'm just pointing you to the real information from practicing divorce lawyers who are in divorce court. So if you want to argue with that, at this point you're just kind of showing your ass, because you know what I mean, you fit that shoe. You are the bitch that I'm talking about, and it hurts because I'm talking about you. And now it's like that whole manipulation scheme. When people who are manipulative know that their manipulation is being seen through, nothing bothers them more, because now they have to take a new course of action, and they're not even sure if it's going to work. Because usually as soon as someone sees through you, now you've lost credibility with them, which means now you've lost the power to influence them, which means they can't be manipulated. And in fact, your plans may backfire, and it may work against you even harder than had they not known. So manipulative people do not like being caught, do not like being detected. The whole point of manipulation is to not be seen while manipulating. It's an infiltration tactic, you know? But you're the bitch that I'm talking about. Because these bitches who want to manipulate a man to get his money, to marry someone rich just for the monetary gains, you're not trying to do the work yourself that person did to earn that money. You're just trying to spread your legs, let him have some moments of pleasure, which you're also having too. And look, if he's not good or whatever it is, you know, that's on you. But at the end of the day, it's not like sex is a one-way thing. You're not getting anything from it. Yeah, there's people who probably could make you feel better. But at the end of the day, if you're with a man who you don't like the sex, but he got money, it says a lot. Because you're there because you know the potential for the money is worth you not having to do half of the work or whatever percentage of work that man has put in to build the legacy, the career, the cash flow that he's built for himself. So if you know all I got to do is have sex with him to get that money, that's evil, right? I'm gonna tell you bitches what you bitches don't want to hear. You some evil bitches, you manipulative ass bitches. I got no fucking respect for you, and no man like me who values himself, who works hard, who knows what he's worth, is gonna respect you. And only men who don't respect themselves and don't value themselves are gonna go for that shit. And fuck all you bitches. And if you wanted a woman who aren't like this, you know I'm not talking to you already, because you're like, this don't describe me, this doesn't even sound like me. But let me get more into the actual facts before I go ranting about why I fuck these bitches. Alright, so pretty much so women know that if they're risking their assets in a relationship, in a marriage, they have to be like, so let's explain how this works. Family court, someone gets divorced, they get seen by a judge, and on paper, by law, it doesn't say that the mother must get custody of the child. What it says is that they'll have expert witnesses and professionals like psychologists who can provide a recommendation for who should get the child. Now, more times than not, those expert witnesses are going to be family members or close acquaintances who know either or both people in the relationship and who are going to speak out. And then the professionals are psychologists, and that psychology part is going to lean heavily towards the mother, because there is a closer relationship between the mother and the children. I'm not doubting that. There definitely is. Women give birth. That child comes from you, it grows in you, and it comes from you. So that relationship's definitely closer. The mothers biologically are wired to be more nurturing than a father. A father gets that really tight connection with the child when he sees them. The mother is having that connection the whole time the child is growing. So we're not debating who technically has the closer relationship with the child. The issue is women have come to this level in the modern century, the 21st century, in the modern age, where before they even have the child, they understand the financial benefits, the economic benefits of getting pregnant by a man, so much so that they had the child for economic gain. And then now they got a little child and they could play house with the child, they could dress the child up to look cute, they can have the child do things that they want to do. It's like their little playmate buddy. It's like playing with the toy house, you know what I mean? Playing with the dollhouse. But they didn't do it because they wanted to start a family. They did it because they wanted to have passive income that they didn't have to work for. This is the modern woman's, not every woman. I'm gonna call the modern woman, if you're born after 92, you a modern woman, most likely. Unless you were raised with an old soul and your parents, your upbringing was different. I'm gonna say most women after 92, maybe 93. I don't even know about y'all. I'm a 91. And I'm gonna say after 93. We cutting it off after that. You're a whole different generation. I can't even relate to those women. Most women are gonna look at this situation after in that generation onwards and be like, I'm supposed to get everything. I'm supposed to, because I need support. So let me tell you what the fuck really happens, right? So what happens is the couple splits all the assets in half. Now, let's think about it this way. When the couple's together, if the husband pays for the mortgage, pays for the car, pays all the utilities, pays for that, and then the wife probably buys the groceries and buys some other things, but her value comes more so in providing support to the family. You know, cooking the meals, helping the children with homework, you know, bringing them to their extracurricular activities. A woman isn't contributing monetary value, not directly. She is indirectly, because otherwise you'd have to pay a professional to do that, or a family member would be sacrificing their time unless they're getting paid for it. But if they're not getting paid for it, then they'd be sacrificing their time in exchange for money they could have been making. So there's an indirect monetary value that they're providing, but they're not providing direct monetary benefits. They're not pulling cash out. Because of that situation. So now when the divorce court hits, they divorce, married couple gets divorced, say they just have one child to keep it simple. The couple in divorce court, they split the assets up in half. Only problem is the woman wasn't paying a mortgage, wasn't paying the car note, wasn't even paying the utilities for the house. And I mean, you know, every couple has their bills split up differently, so maybe it's not leaning that heavily one way versus the other. But let's just stick with the house. Let's say they're contributing pretty evenly across the board, but then the woman doesn't pay the mortgage or the rent or whatever. In New York City, since, you know, that's where I'm at. But mortgages makes a little more sense since, you know, you can't really split an apartment because you don't own it. So let's just say mortgage. Let's pretend the house. There's houses in New York City, a lot in Queens. In that case, the woman ends up getting half of the value of the house when they sell it, unless it's already owned, or even if it is owned, who knows, however they decide to work it out. But she did not spend or contribute any of the payments to make that value of wherever the house is at that point, however much is owed on it or not owed or whatever. She hasn't contributed that. So she isn't, she's gaining half of the value of the assets between the relationship, but she didn't contribute half of the cost to gain that value of those assets. So she's winning by default. She's already winning because she didn't even contribute half of the expenses, but she's getting half of the value. That man had to spend half of the expenses to get half the value. And actually, you know, so there's that. Then the concept of alimony, and let's just start with alimony. The concept of alimony is that the time for the wife spent not pursuing an education, not pursuing a career, the time spent actually dealing with the family and the children or whatever, that time was sacrificed and puts the woman at a disadvantage because she can't grow her career to gain a working income. So now you have a man paying alimony to his wife for whatever the judge orders for some duration, a period of time. And that's to help the woman initially coming out of the marriage in the first stages of divorce. I mean, I don't know how long alimony lasts. I don't think it lasts as long as the children get into age 21, from like birth to 21. I don't think it's like that type of a timeline. But it's still, I'm sure, you could look this up. I'm not really sure on this one. It's definitely for an extended period of time. Could be a few years. The whole point of paying alimony was because there were housewives in the 1900s who were not working. These women were not working. They were housewives, traditional housewives, like what you think of when you think of a housewife. Like they literally were a wife at home. How many women do you know who are doing that? And the chances are little to none. Why? Because more women are going to college, more women have advanced degrees, more women are in the professional workforce. In fact, if you think about it, that's why women are arguing for salary and wage equality and workplace treatment equality. You can't argue for equality in the workplace in terms of salary, in terms of wage, if you're not fucking working. So you gotta be, something had to change. Think about it. There's no way women were arguing for equality in the 50s because they weren't even in the workplace. So what the fuck was there to complain about? Now, women are getting educations, women are working, so they're arguing for equal wages, right? So you can't really be a housewife. So you can't really need alimony. Like, why do you need that? But in today's society, it still exists. It's still a law. So women get paid alimony in the event of a separation, of a divorce. Then the best one, the one that comes to mind when everyone thinks of a divorce, when there's a child involved. Child support. Now, according to Dr. Helen Smith, psychologist who spent over 20, 30 years in her practice as a psychologist, she has a book named Men on Strike. I love that it's a woman because she's definitely speaking to the fact that a lot of men have little to nothing to gain economically from a marriage. And this is why you see increasing amounts of men having families without formal marriage. And Helen Smith cites a statistic from a research that in 10% of cases, fathers get custody of the children. 10% of cases. So this brings me back to why women aren't afraid of prenups or a lack of prenups in a marriage. Because 90% of the time they're going to get custody of the child. That's not a figurative statistic. That's a literal statistic. Literally 90% of the time a woman will get custody. So now this has created a culture where women are incentivized to get pregnant and trap a man to have to contribute economically because they know by keeping that baby, they are going to benefit for the next 20 years plus. Like, for example, this is just a New York City state law. This comes from that Real World Divorce book written and quoted and cited by professional, practicing, active divorce lawyers in every state of the country. For New York City, custody of the child in New York City permits exclusive use of the residence that was formerly occupied by the marital couple until all children turn age 21. So if the man bought the house and now this family starts a family and then they have a child and then they have an issue and then they end up getting divorced, the person who wins custody could be a father 10% of the time, but the person who wins custody gets to take exclusive possession of the property until the children are age 21. And they're receiving child support. So the parent that does not receive custody has to not only move out, not only has to pay child support, not only has to pay alimony, not only has to split half of the value of all the assets, and if that other partner didn't contribute half the expenses, then they're actually losing out even more so. But now they have to move and pay for a new residence. So now they have to pay for a second home. So these are all the expenses that a man faces. This is why men want prenuptial agreements. Because what you stand to gain, some children, which is a blessing, not underwriting that. A wife, her love is definitely worth it if it's a worthy person. But what you stand to lose is possibly, at least you stand to lose custody of the children, which could expand to losing a healthy relationship with the children. You stand to lose said wife, because that's why the fuck y'all separating, for whatever reason. You stand to lose everything you've worked for in your career. Thus far, at whatever point it happens, you stand to lose your house, your car, your savings, your retirement, and you stand to owe money for whatever period of time until that child turns 21. So you have from 0 years, like say if that child is, if you get divorced right before the child turns 21, let's say you have from 0 months up until a maximum period of 21 years. These are 8 different things that you stand, 2 things you stand to gain, and now I'm gonna go 6 things you stand to lose. If you gotta pay from anywhere from 0 months to 21 years, that's a time period that you have to pay monthly payments for child support. And how does this child support work? Anywhere from, this is back in the Real World Divorce book, the courts make the losing custody parent that doesn't have primary custody of the child or children, they make that parent pay 17% for one child of pre-tax income. Pre-tax. So even though you get paid post-tax, you're gonna pay pre-tax. So you're actually gonna pay more than technically what you make. They charge anywhere from 17 to 35% of your pre-tax income, ranging from anywhere from having 1 to 5 children. And if you have more than 5 children, it's really bad for you, because they can charge you more than 35% of your pre-tax income. So let's just use a round figure. If you make $100,000 and after taxes you make about 60 grand, 65 grand a year, because corporate tax is about 35% too, like government regular annual tax. So after you make your 65,000 post-tax income, you're gonna probably have to pay 35% pre-tax if you have a large family of 5 kids. But that's gonna come from your post-tax income, but they're taxing it based on your pre-tax income numbers. So you're gonna have to pay another 35 grand. So now you're down to 30,000. Then if you have to pay alimony, who knows how much that is. And then you still gotta move the fuck out the house, and you just lost all your assets. And now you gotta pay rent or get a new mortgage from that last, say roughly $20,000. So that's what you stand to face. And this is why women don't want men to get married and have a prenuptial agreement, because they say, oh, it's not love if you have a prenuptial agreement. It can't be love if you have to protect your assets. But women don't need to protect their assets, because the law is protecting their assets. By default, the law is favoring them. So how do you know, why do 90% of women get custody in these cases? Because even if a woman has mental health issues like bipolar disorder or severe drug addiction history, she could be in rehab for 3 to 6 months. And she could prove to the judge or convince the judge, because the judge, there's no jury in this case, it's just a judge. Oftentimes, research it, these judges who are family court lawyers are, guess what? Divorced wives. And they're the ones who are going to decide who gets custody of the child. Formerly married divorced wives who are also judges in family court. I want to speak about why this is destructive to the urban community, to the colored community, to the black community. We have too many mothers using this as a technique to get passive income instead of working to build the entrepreneurial business. All the hair weave you buy from the Korean dude, you could start your own weave shop in the hood, buy the inventory, rent a shop out, or buy a property, stock the shop up, do some marketing, do some promo on IG, and sell your own product and become an entrepreneur. But no, it's just easy to get pregnant and collect weekly to monthly off of a man, because it doesn't take half as much effort. And as a result, what's happening is So many women are doing this that it's become a culture that now, and it's a culture that's not only accepted, but it's promoted. It's like people think that this makes a woman independent. It's like, how are you independent when you depend on another man's income? Even if you're not with the man, if you're dependent on child support, you're dependent on that man's income. Depending. I have friends of mine who are single mothers that they bust their ass. You know who you are. They bust their ass. And oftentimes in those cases, like, these are single mothers who should be getting child support. And when they don't get it, they're not happy about it. But they don't even trip. They just bust their ass, work harder, and they keep, and I'm not even saying that's right, because I'm not saying that's right. But they have such a mentality that they're actually not dependent. Like, they're not gonna let their life be based on needing child support. They're gonna let their life be based on them making a success of themselves, them enhancing their skill sets, them networking and studying and working hard to build a legacy for their child. They don't see the need for them to build their legacy off of another man. In fact, it kind of disturbs them. But there's a new breed. This is what I'm saying. If you're born after 92, 93, this is not you. You're a bitch. For real. A generation of women that are so entitled where it's like they feel like they deserve this. Like, he fucked me, he shouldn't have nutted in me. You deserved it. Huh? Bitch, you have no skills. You didn't go to college. You didn't get your master's. You didn't get your PhD. You didn't network your ass off. You didn't grind at this internship, sleeping 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? Putting in the extra hours. You didn't discipline yourself. You just happened to get dicked up by a guy who did all that. And now you see the paycheck. So, and also, if the child's is proven not to be yours after 3 years or more, you could even have a paternity test taken, and that child could be biologically proven not to be yours, and the court will still say you have to pay child support till that kid turns 21. You know how many non-biological fathers got trapped because they couldn't prove within that 3-year timeline that that child wasn't biologically theirs, and they still have to pay child support? And if they don't pay child support, they'll literally go to prison for defaulting on child support payments. Like, now they're about to serve prison time because they were too poor. Y'all don't hear me though. Y'all think this shit is right. You think this is equality. This is equality. Right? See, some of these women, not all of them, but some of these women who are abusing this child support have children who have shirts and shoes with holes in them, and they have $5,000 bags, and they're partying every weekend or every other weekend. Their hair's done, but their child looks like shit. They're doing mad drugs. They're trying to upkeep a lifestyle, a fast-paced lifestyle. This is why men, want no parts of marriage nowadays. Can you blame us? What do we stand to gain from this? See, if we keep going down this path, especially the color community, because there's so little money, what we really need to be doing is uniting and building a strong community with each other. But if we keep doing things like this that are destructive and that are meant to just harm each other, we're not gonna be here much longer. Like, there won't be no black people. The man that everyone cherishes in some kind of shape or form, like, we'll just be extinct. And I mean that in a very literal sense. And you'll have nothing but a bunch of beta male, submissive people who characteristically most women don't even find attractive. What woman finds a submissive, passive, non-confident man to be attractive? I don't know any. But it's encouraging the current times and culture, this feminist culture. That Dr. Helen Smith said she used to be a feminist until she realized it wasn't about equality. From her psychology practice, she noticed that. This current modern age, it's incentivizing men to be beta males. It's encouraging men to be passive. Because if you're assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, if you're an assertive man, there's not too much to gain. There aren't too many things you could do that you stand to gain. Look, women deserve equality in the workforce in terms of wages too. But those numbers are actually increasing, and I could prove it because I actually looked up weekly median wages from 2009 to 2018 for men and for women, and I compared the difference. Men's weekly wages increased from 2009 to 2018 by 14.34%. Women's weekly wages from the second quarter of 2009 to 2018, I use the second quarter for men's too, increased by 19.47%. So women's weekly wages are outpacing the rate, and men are still being paid more. Let's not get fucked up. I'm aware of that. But let's keep two things in mind. Most jobs evaluate raises and promotions based on performance. Performance is based on, hold on, let me see something. I just had to make sure my phone was still recording. Performance and raises, performance evaluations and raises are done on an annual basis. Women have children and take maternity leave, so it's hard for a manager to evaluate the performance of a woman when she's out of office after giving birth for 2, 3, 4 months. That 2 to 4 month gap, depending on the employer, forces their manager to have to evaluate them. They have less criteria to evaluate them. And how can they say they've contributed value definitively when that woman hasn't been contributing value because she's been on paid leave outside of work? And then every annual performance raise the year after is compounded on that 1 year that they weren't, or maybe whatever, how many times they have children. But it's always compounded on the year that they had maternity leave. So if you had maternity leave and that affected your performance because you were out for 2 to 4 months, because now it's like a neutral thing. You didn't do bad, you didn't do good because you didn't do anything, but it was justified because you had birth.